говори прямо как человек. Да. А, это он так думает о тебе, это он так думает. А, нет, это... О, самоопределение. Да нет. Здорово, ребят. Интересный человек, оказывается. Не понял. О, это прикольно, да? Плаксик. Мультимедиатор. Мультимедиа. Что говорят, да?
Tonight, Joe Biden projected to be the next president of the United States. Celebrations erupt across the country, from the White House to both coasts. After days of counting, Pennsylvania puts him over the top. Joe Biden, now set to be the 46th president of the United States, and planning to speak tonight in a primetime address. Kamala Harris makes history, the first woman ever to become vice president-elect.
We did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
The emotional reaction from women of color across the country. President Trump defiant, with no plans to concede. On the golf course when the call was made, he now says the election is far from over. Another outbreak inside the White House. The president's chief of staff tests positive for COVID as the country sees another day of record cases. Texas hitting 1 million. The major city now back into lockdown. The startling new prediction from the CDC and the president-elect's plans to fight the virus. Tonight, the celebrations and the challenges before us as a new presidency is set to begin.
This is NBC Nightly News. Decision 2020. Here is Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. The Trump era is coming to an end. 4 days after polls close across the country, Joe Biden has emerged tonight as the winner and president-elect of the United States. NBC News projecting the former vice president's victory after he put Pennsylvania out of reach of President Trump, clinching the 270 electoral votes needed for victory. Tonight, spontaneous celebrations in the streets of many American cities over a history-making election that will make Kamala Harris the country's first woman and first woman of color vice president. President-elect Biden scheduling a prime-time address to a divided nation. Our team is covering it all. We start with Kristen Welker.
There was jubilance as people flooded the streets today, celebrating a new era in American leadership, from the White House to the West Coast. All marking a history-making moment. Joe Biden poised to become the 46th president of the United States, the first person to defeat an incumbent president in nearly 3 decades. Kamala Harris is the first woman and person of color to earn the title of vice president-elect. Biden reaching the 270 electoral votes needed with a win in the state where he was born, Pennsylvania.
We can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected president of the United States.
For the nation, it is a moment of clarity. After a bruising campaign and 4 days of uncertainty about who had won the election, with vote counts slowed by a surge in mail-in ballots due to the pandemic, Biden, who will address a deeply divided nation tonight, will call for unity and healing, according to his aides, in his first statement today saying he is honored and vowing, "I will be a president for all Americans, whether you voted for me or not," striking a similar tone overnight.
We have to put the anger and the demonization behind us. It's time for us to come together as a nation to heal.
Harris posting her celebratory conversation with her new boss.
We did it, Joe. You're gonna be the next president of the United States.
Reaction to the news poured in from Democrats and some Republicans, including a call from former President Obama, whom Biden served with for 2 terms as vice president. Obama saying in a statement, "I encourage every American to give him a chance and lend him your support." House Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying, "Today marks the dawning of a new day of hope for America." And while there was no traditional concession call from President Trump, some Republicans did congratulate Biden. Senator Mitt Romney, who unsuccessfully challenged Obama and Biden in 2012, called Biden and Harris people of goodwill and admirable character. In 1973, Biden became the country's youngest senator. Now he's on the cusp of becoming the oldest president. He'll be 78 when he's sworn into office. And while Biden will face unprecedented challenges, a pandemic, an economic crisis, and country riven by racial strife, Biden says he's ready to get to work.
The purpose of our politics, the work of the nation, isn't to fan the flames of conflict, but to solve problems, to guarantee justice, to give everybody a fair shot, and to improve the lives of our people. We may be opponents, but we're not enemies. We're Americans.
Kristen joins us now from Wilmington. What can we expect tonight, Kristen?
Well, Lester, people are energized and elated here. We expect to hear from Vice President-elect Harris and President-elect Biden, a night that'll be capped off by fireworks.
Kristen Welker, thank you. We will, of course, bring you the President-elect's speech live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. President Trump says he'll fight the outcome, claiming falsely that he wore legal challenges. Hallie Jackson is at the White House with that.
President Trump was not at the White House when he learned he'd lost it. He was golfing in Virginia, driven home past his critics cheering. Tonight, it is over for him, although he doesn't want it to be. Defiant in defeat, insisting he'll fight the results in court, starting Monday. But since there's no evidence of widespread fraud in this election,
that is unheard of. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional.
Those challenges seem likely to fail. Advisors appearing to push a PR case more than a legal one. Now, the president's campaign manager wants allies to stay at the ready in case they're needed at protests. But the blame game's beginning, with multiple sources telling NBC News of finger pointing. Many aides already looking for their next jobs. The president himself insisting earlier, "I won the election by a lot." He did not win at all, as he rejects the reality he's feared.
If I lose to him, I don't know what I'm going to do. I will never speak to you again.
Winning is easy. Losing is never easy. Not for me, it's not.
The president's still in charge for the next 75 days, a period set to be dominated by the growing pandemic that's infected more than 9 million people, including now his own chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and 4 other White House and campaign aides, according to sources familiar with the diagnosis. It's unlikely President Trump will call President-elect Biden soon or invite him to the White House, as is tradition. He becomes the first incumbent to lose office in nearly 3 decades after a tenure in which he promised unity but fanned flames of division and governed by grievance, often erratically. He's been investigated, impeached, embattled, and adored by his base, with 70 million Americans voting for him, stamping the Trump brand on a reshaped Republican Party, now grappling with what its future holds.
Hallie, what else could the transition hold?
Well, it's possible that the president, who's now a lame duck, could shake up staff, Lester, perhaps firing top officials. Back to you.
All right, Hallie, thank you. The nation remains deeply divided, but for Biden's supporters, today was for celebration. Stephanie Gosk has more on that from Philadelphia.
Moments after the election was called, the people who gave Joe Biden a victory started celebrating.
It's the election of our lifetime. It impacts our future so much, and it just means so much that it's happening. We did it. We did it.
On the streets of the largest cities where protests dominated the summer, today, a party.
We've been waiting for this for 4 years, so this is the release of all that energy. It's really awesome.
Crowds outside the White House, dancing in Atlanta. In President Trump's hometown, New York City, Biden supporters shouted out their windows.
It's one of the great days in American history.
And at times burst into song. In Pennsylvania, there was pride that the votes cast here put Biden over the top. From the Capitol in Harrisburg,
When we vote! When we vote!
to Philadelphia's City Hall.
We're from New Jersey. We came here to celebrate democracy. We are proud Americans. Why come to Philadelphia? Because Philly is where it happened. Philly made it happen.
Perhaps they don't know that President Trump remains defiant, vowing to challenge the results in court. Perhaps they don't care.
There's pride among Democrats in this state tonight. The mayor of the city where Joe Biden was born stood outside his family home today and told the crowd, "We have a president from Scranton." Lester, back to you.
All right, Stephanie Gosk in Philadelphia tonight. Thank you. Let's bring in Chuck Todd now, NBC News political director and moderator of Meet the Press. Chuck, it was that last batch of mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania that put Biden over the top, right?
It was. It finally put him outside the automatic recount margin. And while it's still possible when all the votes are counted in provisionals, it could drop below there, but it finally met a threshold. But this was such an unusual election for us to have to navigate and call here, because we actually were mathematically there to declare Joe Biden the president in some ways, knowing he could get there, even though we didn't know the states that would get him there. It was just an interesting and unusual way that we had to unpack these election results.
So when the votes are all counted, what are we looking at in terms of size of victory and how it will affect Joe Biden's way of governing?
Well, look, I think there's a number of ways you could look at it and say this is a large, impressive Democratic victory. Not many Democratic presidents get a majority that often, and so in some ways it's a big vote. Then again, it was also very competitive. I mean, I look at this election and say that the number one takeaway is 2016 wasn't a fluke. In many ways, Joe Biden narrowly won an election that Hillary Clinton narrowly lost, and pattern-wise, it was the same way. But I think the mandate is very simple. It's healing this nation, whether it's healing the divisive politics of this country or the virus. That, to me, is the mandate voters sent Joe Biden.
All right, Chuck, thank you. And for much more on this historic election, join Chuck tomorrow morning for Meet the Press. The president-elect has been clear about the top item on his agenda, battling the coronavirus. Jeff Bennett now on how Biden plans to jumpstart his plan as early as this week.
President-elect Joe Biden promising a packed day one agenda.
They've given us a mandate for action on COVID, the economy, climate change, systemic racism.
At the top of his list, combating the coronavirus crisis as new cases surge.
On day one, we're going to put our plan to control this virus into action.
Biden says he wants to create a national COVID strategy right away, urging governors to mandate mask wearing, creating a plan to distribute vaccines and expand COVID testing. Campaign sources telling NBC News that Biden is expected to announce his coronavirus task force on Monday. Biden's victory a potential boost for Obamacare, with the Affordable Care Act facing a Supreme Court challenge next week.
Folks, we're 100 million Americans with pre-existing conditions who live in fear every day that Obamacare is going to be taken away. I promise you it will not be.
On immigration, Biden has called for an immediate halt on most deportations for 100 days and says he'll create a task force to reunite migrant families. When it comes to climate change, Biden says he'll bring the U.S. back into the Paris Climate Agreement.
I've laid out how, in fact, I'm going to get us to net zero emissions in the United States of America by 2050.
All while promising policies to tackle racial and social injustice.
The names of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Jacob Blake, Walter Wallace, they're not going to be soon forgotten by me, not by anyone in this country.
With a nation divided, a pledge to push unity.
It's time for us to come together as a nation to heal. It's not going to be easy. We have to try.
Jeff, what do we know about the president-elect's transition plans?
Well, Lester, Joe Biden's transition officially launches on Monday. The pandemic will be its primary focus. Lester?
All right, Jeff, thanks very much. As we said at the top tonight, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris is making history, too, the first woman and woman of color on a winning national ticket. This victory emotional for so many. Rahima Ellis tells us more.
Kamala Harris making history.
We did it, Joe.
And
Так это та покатилёшка, которая гости этого. Где я просто еще не вспомнил, там, например, не так добраться, это покатилось. Ну да. Так это то же самое, что ли? Это которая скорняшки, что ли? Если у вас не книж, что ли, я не знаю. Ладно. Что там? Все нормально у вас там. Ладно, что там интересно. Понятно. Ну так, нормально, более-менее. Чё? Ладно, все. Ладно, покидаем. Ладно. В чем разница?
Во-первых, техническая характеристика. И вот в этом месте должны быть ТТ. А вот это урода, это продолжение 6-го пункта. А вся вот эта жуть должна быть на свободном поле чертежа.
На одном дыхании.
Так. А что, больше болтов нету? Точнее, винтов. Только один вот здесь.
Еще есть.
Где?
Ну, а тут не видно.
В тумане скрылась милая Одесса. Просто. Так. Жуть. Что тут будет садиться?
Временка.
Шкив, правильно. И до чего я его упирать должен?
Сюда.
Куда сюда? Он дальше вот этой линии не пойдет.
Да.
Он дальше этой линии не пойдет, потому что вот это не полный профиль шлиц. Не пойдет дальше этой линии. А упирать ты его должен вот в этот бурт вала.
Провести дальше.
Одно слово. Текс. Че она жирная, нахальная, противная? Так. Сейчас.
А
размечтался.
Там получается
Что?
по этому, и по сминающим напряжениям, и по всему. Ну,
Что?
серийное производство.
Молодец! Шлицы!
А можно и шпонку, там написано, можно и шпонку?
Можно.
Шпонку можно и
Если ты будешь взвод держать слесарей, которые в твоем похабном среднесерийном производстве только и будут делать, что шпонки подгонять вот по тому пазлу. И больше ничего. Целую смену шпонки подгонять. А шлицы не подгоняются. Они взаимозаменяемы, в отличие от шпонки. Ну, молодец. Просто. Так. Это что за тухлая, чахлая прокладка?
Ну.
Что ну?
Маленькая.
Ну. Молодец. Хоть он и взор стекла, но откуда видна вот эта линия?
Ага.
А где штриховка? Те шпионы дома есть?
Да, имеется.
А враги?
Нет.
Ну и как это нет, когда поукрали все нафиг? Ни одного винта не оставили, только дырки резьбовые.
Это у нас крышка снята.
Да? Тогда как вот эта урода в разрез попала, если крышка снята? А какая разница?
Стакан срезан, смотрю.
Значит, уже разрез, а не крышка снята. Это разрез вот так. Если уже то на то пошло, если уже точно говорить.
Ну да, так и есть.
А я в этом нисколько не сомневался. Так. Шпильки. Винты в потай. И сейчас ты мне долго будешь убеждать.
Не, я тут просто не зачеркнул.
Что вот эта вот длина, вот эта вот длина, 1,5D.
Вот до сюда 1,5, да. Вот так.
Тогда это что за урода? Такс. Ага. Значит, это у тебя поменяется все, тут будет уплотнение стоять. И не манжетное, а торцовое. Вот такое. Так. Кто сепараторы спер подшипников? А вот в этом месте упрощенное изображение.
Ну, это учебно, просто можно поучиться 4 раза.
Потом 2 из них стереть.
Не, ну а зачем?
Так, а чего вот тут Флаг жирный.
Ну, они просто линии перепутались.
А кого это волнует?
Это будет все хорошо.
Hey everyone, this is Josh with Josh Wright Piano TV. Today's video segment is all about pedaling, and it's in response to 2 different video requests this week.
Вот, я тебе говорю просто, да.
Ouch! Ow! 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 With its one hand, pedaling in itself is an art. There's a lot of different books written solely about pedaling.
В представленном наблюдении смерть мозга развилась в результате восходящего тромбоза левой внутренней сонной артерии. Инфаркт охватывает все полушарие, имеется выраженный отек и смещение из давления ствола мозга, как это показано на компьютерной томографии. Неврологическое обследование сводится к констатации прекращения всех функций полушарий и ствола мозга. Стойко отсутствует сознание. Собственное дыхание замещено искусственной вентиляцией легких. Зрачки широкие, более 5 мм. Не реагируют на яркий прямой свет. Должно быть точно известно, что никаких препаратов, расширяющих зрачки, не применялось. Отсутствует корнеальный рефлекс. Глазные яблоки неподвижны и находятся в среднем положении. Не вызываются околоцефалические рефлексы. Для проверки этого симптома врач занимает положение у изголовья кровати так, чтобы голова больного удерживалась между руками врача, а большие пальцы приподнимали веки. Затем голову поворачивают на 180 градусов в одну сторону и удерживают в этом положении 3-4 секунды. Затем на 180 градусов в противоположную сторону на тот же срок. Если при поворотах головы движений глаз не происходит, и они стойко сохраняют срединное положение, как это видно, то это свидетельствует об отсутствии функций ствола мозга. На рисунке схематично изображена методика вызывания околоцефалического рефлекса. Справа нормальный околоцефалический рефлекс, слева его отсутствие. Выявлять околоцефалический рефлекс нельзя при наличии или подозрении на травматическое повреждение шейного отдела позвоночника. Следующий рефлекс. Не вызывается околовестибулярный рефлекс. Перед проведением пробы необходимо убедиться в целости барабанных перепонков. Голова поднимается на 30 градусов. В наружный слуховой проход, вблизи барабанной перепонки, вводится катетер малых размеров, и большим шприцом производится медленное в течение 40-50 секунд орошение 200 мл воды температурой 30 градусов. Ведется наблюдение за появлением нистагма или отклонений глаз, которое возникает при сохраняющейся функции ствола еще до полного введения воды. Видно отсутствие движений глаз при калорической пробе, что показывает на признак смерти ствола. Все движения, как спонтанные, так в ответ на другие сильные раздражители, отсутствуют. Нет реакции на сильные болевые раздражения. При давлении на область тригеминальных точек, при давлении на грудину отсутствуют фарингеальные и трахеальные рефлексы, которые определяются движением эндотрахеальной трубки в трахее и верхних дыхательных путях, а также при продвижении катетера в бронхи для отсасывания слизи. Имеется диффузная мышечная тония. Отсутствуют периостальные, сухожильные, брюшные рефлексы. Не вызываются патологические рефлексы. Таким образом, неврологическое обследование показало прекращение всех функций полушарий ствола головного мозга. Решающим признаком смерти мозга является гибель структур дыхательного центра в продолговатом мозге. Регистрация отсутствия дыхания не допускается прямым отключением от аппарата искусственной вентиляции легких, так как гипоксия оказывает вредное влияние на деятельность сердечно-сосудистой системы. Поэтому необходимо выполнить специально разработанный тест апноэтической оксигенации. Подлинность диагноза смерти мозга подтверждается отсутствием спонтанной и вызванной электрической активности мозга. Исследование выполняется в соответствии с международной системой исследования электроэнцефалограмм в условиях смерти мозга. Используются игольчатые электроды, не менее 10, расположенные по системе лобных, центральных, теменных, височных, затылочных областях и 2 ушных электрода. Применяются аппараты, имеющие не менее 8 каналов. ЭЭГ регистрируется в би- и монополярных отведениях. Электрическое молчание коры в этих условиях должно сохраняться в течение 30 минут непрерывной регистрации. Общее время стимуляции световыми вспышками, звуковыми и болевыми раздражениями 10 минут. Подтверждением диагноза смерти мозга является определение отсутствия мозгового кровообращения методом церебральной ангиографии. Проводится контрастная ангиография 4 магистральных сосудов. На слайде видно, что при смерти мозга введение контрастного вещества в магистральные сосуды головы показывает остановку его на уровне сифона на основании черепа или в шейной части внутренней сонной артерии при нормальном заполнении наружной сонной. При аксиллярной ангиографии остановка контраста происходит на уровне основной или вертебральной артерии. Прекращение кровообращения в вертебрально-базилярной системе наступает несколько позже, чем в системе, и параклинические методы доказывают смерть мозга в результате первичного разрушения головного мозга и ствола. Если электроэнцефалографическое и ангиографические исследования не проводились, то необходимо дальнейшее наблюдение за больным в условиях продолжающейся искусственной вентиляции. После первичного повреждения мозга длительность наблюдения должна достигать 12 часов. Если имеется вторичное повреждение мозга, то наблюдение продолжается 24 часа. В течение этих сроков каждые 2 часа производятся неврологические осмотры, которые регистрируют степень выпадения функций мозга.
Что-то он тебя понял, что так нет. Ладно, я молчал.
I won the dog shit. And then you say I to the dog shit.
I what?
You say I to the dog shit.
I chew the dog
No,
shit.
you two. I do. We're gonna count to 10. I say I won the dog shit. And you say I to the dog shit.
I to the dog shit.
I 3 the dog shit.
I 4 the dog shit.
I 5 the dog shit.
I 6 the dog shit.
I 7 the dog shit.
I 8
You what? What'd you do?
I ate the dog shit.
Oh my God.
Что если к самому увлекательному кино
Помогите.
добавить доставку продуктов прямо до двери? Скидки на каждую поездку в такси? И любимую музыку? Сберпрайм. Единая подписка на 7 сервисов 999 рублей за год. Одна подписка, много возможностей.
How old do you think you are?
79.
Higher.
89.
Higher.
89.
Higher.
Higher than that?
Yeah.
90.
Higher.
91.
Higher.
2.
Higher.
3.
Higher.
4.
Higher.
5.
Higher.
6.
Higher.
7.
Higher.
8.
That's it. 98.
Your ass. I am not 98 years old. Holy fuck. I get so old. How did I get so old so fast?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh my God.
You're going to be 99 this summer.
No, am I really?
Yeah.
I was born 1919.
And it's
What is it now?
2018.
1919. 2018. Next year I'll be 100.
Yeah, you're going to be 99 this summer. You're going to be 99 this summer, and then next year will be 100.
Yeah. Holy fuck. Jeez, I'm going to be an old fucking man. You know it?
Ладно, лично. Ну, кстати, да, наверное. Видимо, так, можно это... Я себя иногда чувствую так, как будто мне, да, меня не касается. Я, наверное, нет чувства. Скобрежный, стрежный, грешный. Ладно, будем жить. Ладно. Нет, там надо такого. Надо смотреть, как они играют. Надо смотреть, как они играют, чтобы у меня в ленте они были.
I would definitely recommend.
Чтобы у меня вот эти все пианисты, хренинисты, мне надо знать, кто они такие, чтобы они у меня в YouTube появлялись, чтобы они у меня там рекламу мне на их концерты давали, например. Или что-то, ну как бы просто, да, типа, ну, это что такое там, ну да. Ну нет, просто чтобы как бы, да, типа того, да. Ну, без обид, без ошибок только это что делать. Ну, вот, не просто так, чтобы, да. Ну, а как? Ну, а ты что хочешь-то? Ты не вернешь уже вчерашний день-то. Только если маразм у тебя случится, тогда. Ну, нет, да. Нет, зачем это тоже? Ну, это как-то нехорошо, да. А, вот так вот что ли получилось? А, ну ладно. А, ну вот это есть. Privacy, да, понял. Да. Ну это получается так. А, ну да. Не, какой-то нет. Нет. Это есть. Ага, да, вот это я говорю. А, вот так. Нет, не согласен. Тогда денег придется. Ладно, не читаю. А, я навязываю прям свою. Я про себя так говорю. Нет. Я тебе знаешь, как скажу, ты даже не знаешь, что это такое, потому что мы с тобой, да, ты не знаешь, что такое настоящий голос, такого, да, типа того. Да, тебе, так что это все, давай не будем. Да,
opening of the Waldstein Sonata, there are certain problems that people keep bringing for solutions, and I thought that I will discuss some of them. The first one has to do with the first two measures, the repeated, and then going on into the left hand for many more measures, the repeating of those intervals. So what people usually come with is very, very, very short staccato, and it feels out of control, inaccurate, they're not getting the sound that they want. So this is the first thing to take into consideration. When we repeat intervals, all we need to do is go up and down with the keys, what we call riding the keys up and down. The forearm has to go down with the keys as always very free to go down, and that freedom gives the control to bring it down, and for the key then to ride you up, and you're coming down again, never leaving the keys. So it sounds this way and looks this way. That also allows for going faster very easily, because there's absolutely no waste of movement, either going up, coming down, or plucking in such a short way that it freezes the hands in the air. So here is what it looks like. There's one other thing, a couple of other things that are added. When I'm playing those repeated chords, I give them a little bit of a shape, which means I don't play them exactly in the same place. It's done so many ways. There's one other thing, a couple of other things that are added. When I'm playing those repeated chords, I give them a little bit of a shape, which means I don't play them exactly in the same place. It's done so minutely that you may not see very much of it, but you probably will be able to hear the difference musically also, rather than sounding this way. Which is also tiring. We're using the same movements over and over and over again, whereas if we do this, coming a little bit higher and a little bit lower, you can hear how it immediately creates a phrase over 4 notes. Adding to that is a little bit of a beat, because very often people ignore the first note. They start, it sounds like that, but it really starts with the first note. So it also brings the rhythmic aspect to it. So it helps with organizing every 4 notes. It helps make the movements very smooth and untiring, and it also has a musical effect. So again, doing it this way. So this is the first problem. The second problem is the jump from here to here. People often don't even play the last note. the arm is already pulling them to the right to get to the note over the distance. Now, when we discuss jumps or leaps, there are two notes that are involved. One is the one that we go from, which is this one, and that's the one that's the jumping board for us to get to the second note. So if we don't play it, we have to pull ourselves over, it's inaccurate, and it also is time consuming. The moment we use this one as a jumping board, this note, to get us there, the forearm is being sent over rather. So this is the first problem. The second problem is the jump from here to here. People often don't even play the last note. The arm is already pulling them to the right to get to the note over the distance. Now, when we discuss jumps or leaps, there are two notes that are involved. One is the one that we go from, which is this one, and that's the one that's the jumping board for us to get to the second note. So if we don't play it, we have to pull ourselves over, it's inaccurate, and it also is time consuming. The moment we use this one as a jumping board, this note, to get us there, the forearm is being sent over rather than we moving ourselves, so it gets absolutely sent over very quickly. And when you have a slight rotational movement, I will exaggerate it, this one going to here, rotations always minimize the motion anywhere you go, and it's also a faster movement than just going straight across. It brings the forearm across, but in smaller amount. Also, musically, we hear that note, which is part of the music. Not only that, but in the working out of this issue, you take a split-second time, I'm going to exaggerate it, so that you can really play it in a way that sends you. So, and again, in the end, you don't hear it, but it's underneath in just the minute amount as is necessary to finish that note and to send us over. And the same thing happens. Very often people stay here or pull over instead of being sent by that note, by that G. And of course, if we do it same as we cross over in scales and arpeggios, it sends us very, very quickly over to the bass area. Another
checking some of those out. And so today we're just going to go over some basics about when we should pedal. Hassan's question was about at what point in the music should I be changing the pedal and where should I be holding it down, so I'll address that. And then Anne's question was about a subject called syncopated pedal, which gets a little bit more complicated, but really helps us to smooth out our pedaling and make it really unnoticeable to the audience where we're changing our pedal. So I'm just going to take a really old hymn called Amazing Grace, just to show basics of where we want to change the pedal. We always want to change the pedal when there is a harmony change. So for example, if you just listen to this E flat major chord, which is the key that I'll be playing this piece in, I could play as many E flat major chords as I want, and I never really need to change the pedal. But as soon as I introduce a chord that is a harmony difference, it gets really muddy. And so I would say, let's just go through this piece and let's figure out where we're going to want to pedal. So. So I threw in a little bit of jazz chords in there as well. So right here we have our first pedal.